Well, good evening and welcome to week 3 of the Giant Crit Crusher series. We are up for race 5 and 6 tonight in an 8-race series held over 4 weeks. I'm Katie Bates, and tonight in commentary I'm joined by Pat Shaw. And Pat, we've had a couple of weeks of super exciting racing, and with an omnium format and a point score, it really leads to some very exciting racing.
It reminds me a lot of a series that I grew up with, which was known as the Tattersalls Cup. And John Craven ran the series. He used to have 2 stages a day. In the criterium, you'd sprint once every 2 laps for 3, 2 and 1 points. And if you were good at it, you certainly held command in those races. And the riders that are good at backing up quickly have shown they're really good in this race so far, in this particular format anyways. For you, though, Kate, I reckon the Omnium on the track, you've got a lot of background there, a lot of experience. It would be a lot like that for you too.
Well, it's certainly tough racing. It is very much like an omnium on the track where you don't have to just focus on being good in one race. You have to back up for both. So it is a points race system. The top 20 place getters get points, 20 for the winner, 1 point for 20th place. And there's about a 10-minute break in between. So this evening we've got a lap of the volcano. That's around 9 kilometres. And then LaGuardia Loop, and that's 3 laps of that to make up a 10K race. At the top of the women's GC, Pat, let's take a look at that. It's been pretty hard fought racing. And we've got Fran Bamboost, who's an incredible sprinter. She's just been incredibly consistent over the opening 2 weeks and 4 races. Justine Barrow, the Aussie, in second. Courtney Sherwell in third. Jenny Pettinen in fourth. Nev Bradley in equal fourth with Pettinen. Imir Nichols in sixth. Kim Garland in 7th, Melanie Bennett in 8th, Stephanie Corset in 9th, and Cassia Boglia in 10th. Stephanie Corset won't be with us this week. She's had a few health concerns that she's had to deal with, and we sent her absolutely all the best for that. She certainly rocketed out of the field in last week's race to show how super impressive she is. So Fran Bamboo, she has quite a lead overall. She's back this week to back it up. In the women's B, we've got Sarah Grove at the top of the table, leading Erin Bertram, V. O'Connell in third, Selena Shake in fourth, Josie Simpson in fifth, Hannah Vine in sixth, Margot Jaquette in seventh, Natasha Williams in eighth, Kate Braderick in ninth or equal eighth, and Grace Fang in 10th. And while Sarah Grove has a good 10-point lead, it is tight for the places after that. C grade, we've got Mazza Lovegrove on 74 points, leading ahead of Tam Kite. Only 3-point differential there, so that'll be a good race this week. Priscilla Brown is in third, Susie Beretta in fourth, Anna Johnston is sitting in fifth, Andre and Cott is sitting in sixth place, Alyssa Grant in seventh, Elise Fuchs in eighth, Lam Kong in ninth, and Lol Club in 10th. Again, a fairly tight leaderboard for the C graders. And the D graders, Rock Jedi is leading 3 points up on Virginia Riches, sitting on 75. Bit of a gap to third, Julie Parry. Camilla Sanchez in fourth. Lisa Hopper in fifth on 47 points. Joe Lees in sixth on 37 points. Jodie Renee in seventh. Lee Sarah in eighth. Equal on eighth is Anna Marie Sagan. That's a famous cycling name, isn't it, Pat? And Jenny Brown is also on 28 points. So across the board, we've got some clear leaders, but certainly that podium, well, it's all still very open. We're halfway through. We've got 4 races left to run, 2 of those tonight, all fairly similar courses and fairly similar distances. But Pat, by now we're sort of figuring out a few tactics and who's got a bit of skin in the game. So tonight on the live stream, we've got the one and only Carly Taylor. She joined me in commentary in week 1 and then it sucked her back in. She couldn't help it. And we've got Carly on the bike, and I'm sure that she'll have plenty of choice words to describe how she's feeling.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see Carly's just... Sorry, Carly. You've just made a return to racing. I want to talk about you returning to racing, and you're returning with an outfit called Rock Salt Attacker. You've obviously got a great team behind you and join a great friend in Peter Mullins. I think this is an amazing move for both the team and yourself, and looks like it's going to be a pretty serious 2021 coming up.
Yeah, I am pretty excited to be pinning on a number in real life, not just on Zwift coming up. I did do a crit last weekend, so it was a bit of a shock to the system racing in a bit of a peloton, but definitely looking forward to next year. And it's just an awesome group of females, and they're always they're actually really inspiring me just to get out and train and race with them tonight. I'm looking forward to it, even though this isn't really my forte.
Fantastic,
Carly,
Carly,
we
and
wish
it's
you
not long.
absolutely all the best. Sorry, Pat, I'm just jumping in over the top. I'm just so damn keen to see Carly suffer a little bit. Said with all due respect, Carly, but there's nothing quite like a live feed on a Zwift to really show how you're feeling. There's no hiding.
Yeah, I'm now scared that you're going to see how much I actually do suffer, because I know it gets pretty ugly. But just don't come in when I'm trying to sprint, please.
If the producer's listening, 100% come in when Carly's trying to sprint, please. Well, good luck out there tonight, Carly, and it's almost time to head down to the start line, so we will do that. And big thumbs up for Carly. Awesome job. We've also got Justine Barrow on the live stream, Pat, so we'll throw down to her when we can. And I actually think that it's a super interesting way to consume the racing as a fan. When we've got the live stream on, in-person racing, we get to see what's happening in the race, but we very rarely get such an up-close picture of the action. And we also never get to chat to them in between races. So I think this is a great concept and a great format.
Oh, it's been fantastic all winter in Australia, and being able to go into people's houses and watching them in their pain caves has been fantastic. As you said, particularly for the viewer. I mean, if we could zoom in on the Tour de France and watch them, their faces close up, it would be even better, particularly the riders further back in the pack. But the accessibility has been fantastic, and people have just really loved this series so far, because if they have a bad race in race one, they can always come back and have another race in race two. And often we have these issues, like maybe we've got an internet connection that's an issue, so it bundles up our race. It's not all over in the Giant Crit Crushers series. You get another chance 10 minutes later, albeit sometimes I don't think 10 minutes is quite enough.
Well, that's it, Pat. I've had my 3-year-old plug on my trainer midway through a bunch ride before. So all sorts of things can happen. It's kind of like getting a flat tire or a broken chain out on the road. I think it's time for the ladies to start their racing. We're almost there. So let's go down to the start line. Pat, it's interesting because we've got two different competing priorities, if you will, as they roll out of the pier in Mortopia here. We've got some riders like Bamboost and Barrow. Courtney Sherwell is sitting in third overall, who are definitely looking to be consistent and go for those overall wins. But we'll also have some riders who are just up for a stage win, essentially, and they will sacrifice performance in race number 2 in order to give race number 1 a crack.
Oh, certainly, and I'm glad you bring that point up, because now that we have a GC that's a little bit solidified, and we know the main riders at the top of the list, they'll sort of seem to follow each other. It happens. It's a natural reaction by us human beings. We will stay close, so we'll see that certainly Fran Bamboost won't be given such leverage that she's had in previous races, because everyone will be watching her so closely. Maybe that opens the door for a Lizzie Stannard tonight, or even a Madeline Wright from Rock Salt Attacker, presented by Liv and Stram. So there's some really good riders in this field again tonight, Katie. And I think the thing that really blows us away is particularly the amount of riders that previously weren't on Zwift, particularly racing cyclists, but also recreational riders that have taken to Zwift during a pandemic and now have realised just how beneficial it is for them. Another one out there, Jenny Petton, one of our fan favourites at home as well. She's always got a great, strong following on the Facebook feed, so all the best to Jenny tonight.
And so for those following along at home, if you take a look to the right of screen, you will be able to see how many watts per kilo each rider is putting out. On the flat, that's a fairly good indicator of how they may be going. On climbs, it's a little bit different because we're looking at their weights as well. We've got Justine. Justine, can you hear us? It looks like you guys are already starting to work pretty hard.
always hard and fast for the start of these races.
She's fantastic to see inside the pain cave there, Katie. And something that we see is, each rider has a different aesthetic. And one thing you'll see, particularly with Justine, she does ride a lower cadence. And really notable was in the National Championship where she finished on the podium in January. And it was an incredible performance. But she just rides that low cadence. And her way of winning races is to really whittle down her competitors just one pedal stroke at a time. She's not looking to burst away with an acceleration, but certainly in the previous 2 weeks, she has been showing a good sprint finish. So maybe a chance tonight on the volcano finish.
Well, they are certainly slogging away, and the conditions in Watopia are rubbish, Pat. Look at them. It's raining, it looks windy, looks pretty average. I think a lot of them are probably feeling pretty #blessed to be in their living room right now.
Yes, well, it's been some average weather down in Victoria, so I can really empathise with them with this particular weather on the card tonight. But the great thing about when it rains in Zwift, you still don't need a raincoat.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the bunch largely staying together. Thus far, we are up for 8.9 kilometres around the volcano lap. Fran Bambust, our leader, she's on 73 points. She does have 11 points on Justine Barrow, so Justine will certainly be wanting to stick close to Bambust when it comes to those finishes. We've seen her explode out of the bunch with a huge burst of power in the previous races, so the riders will certainly be looking to what moves happen quite early. But at this stage, Pat, it looks like everybody's already playing a little bit of early on cat and mouse as much as you can when you're in a virtual bunch.
Yeah, our very own Carly Taylor's right up the front there as well. And it's fantastic to see her join Rock Salt Attacker for 2021. I think this is a really special moment for her, and it gives her a new chance to focus on also helping these younger riders come up from underneath her, which is a lot what we're about in the National Road Series in particular, is to see some riders with some experience using that to help our next generation coming through. And certainly last week, you spoke about Corset, Stephanie Corset, of course, but also a rider that really stood out was Neve Bradley, and Bradbury, should I say, and she's been fantastic earlier in the season as well, and still sort of just dipping the toe, so to speak, in the water of elite women's racing, but as a junior, an exceptional talent, and I think that she's in exact surroundings, and now she adds with Peter Mullen, she adds Carly Taylor, and that experience is just phenomenal for those riders.
Well, we saw them go up a bit of a pinch. There's only 49 metres of vertical climbing in total in this 9 kilometre lap. But the small pinches, every percentage it goes up in Zwift, and you can see how the road is tracking on the number just above that tracking box. So 0% at the moment means they're on the flat. But a lot of these courses pinch up to 6 or 7% very quickly. They really burn the legs. If that happens to be a moment where you're taking a drink or you've paused for a second, it can certainly result in some big gaps. Obviously, they do then have the slight downhill that comes afterwards, but they also have to remain pretty vigilant through that period. Pat, it seems to me like the peloton has learnt a bit about each other in the already 4 races that they've had in the past 2 weeks. And teamwork, it's really an important thing in the Zwift world, equally as much as out on the road.
Oh, certainly, and position is crucial, and maybe they're rock salt with numbers tonight. We'll want to stretch out the peloton early, but it's a hard finish, this one, Katie, and positioning will be crucial, but also having a lengthy sprint is really helpful. We already see Brie Wilson. She's making a bit of a surge off the front, I think, here, which is an early move. Peter Mullen's back in the pack, just sitting quietly. Jenny Pettinen, as we spoke about at the top of the broadcast, but as Bambust, she follows Brie Wilson immediately. She's not letting her get too far. Carly Taylor right behind that. Justine Barrow, who's on the live cam, she's right up there as well. Garland close by also. So a really packed field, and all the best riders are right in there. And as we see now, looks like pushing on the watts, and she is. Justine Barrow, she's pushing over 400 watts at the moment, looking to surge off the front here, Katie.
You can see from the body language that these riders are working hard. That's Brie Wilson. We can see on screen now, and she certainly is taking some big breaths of air and working very hard. The pace has really turned on now. They're going close to 50 kilometres an hour. And Pat, a few minutes ago, we saw them start to drop their power ups. So there were some featherweights that were being used up, as well as some drafting trucks. And Brie, she's got a big towel because Zwifting is sweaty business. But it just goes to show you that their avatars may not be bobbing around a whole lot, but they certainly are in real life. The pace is certainly incredibly high, and they're all sitting at over 4 watts per kilo, which is certainly not a moseying pace.
Well, Carly Taylor, she's got the top off because she's getting hot in the cooking kitchen, and she's going to be good tonight to see this hit out. She wants to knock off a sprint, she said. She really wants to push out a nice sprint, looking for the aero power-ups. So we'll wait to see whether she is blessed with that, because as she said, we probably saw more discarding of those power-ups there with the featherweight power-up, or the lightweight as it's known, and also the draft power-up. Not notably useful for a finish on the crit. So everyone will be looking for that aero power-up, which is the shape of an aero time trial helmet, and still some significant numbers in the group. In their back pockets, you see those little blue effervescent signs. That's the ride-ons that the riders have been collecting along the way. So be sure, if you are watching on the broadcast and you have your Zwift companion app, sign into your Zwift companion app and find the athletes and give them a ride on, Katie.
It can be just that little bit of encouragement that you need, because you essentially get a big thumbs up that drops out of the sky and donks you on the head and falls into your back pocket. Sometimes it can distract you for just a tiny second away from that heaving breath. But Carly Taylor looked like she had a big smile on her face. I think she's just winding up for the finish, but she hasn't hit the front yet. She's been taking care of herself and sucking some wheels, and just making sure that she's got some cookies left toward the end. We've got half a lap to go worth of racing. They've been out there for 6.6 kilometres. The pace, Pat, hasn't dropped below 45 kilometres an hour. And I think that it will be very difficult for an attack to go. We are seeing a few little moves off the front, but at this pace, it's nearly impossible for a break to go.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well, Katie. And I always sort of focused on that in racing and talked to other athletes about that. There's no real point of attacking if the speed is already higher than you know that you can maintain yourself off the front. So wait for the pace to die off. And that's in Zwift, it's a good opportunity as well. If you get on a strong uphill, the pace drops below that 30 kilometres an hour, that's the time to launch and attack. But it would need a very, very consistent effort from here to the finish line to stay away. Great to see Sophie Sutton right up there again too this evening, Katie. She was second on the second race last week in the women's and put down a huge sprint, just beaten on the line by Stephanie Corset, I think. It did come down to the photo finish there, but good to see back in there as well. We got in the live cam again with Justine Barrow. Not far to go now. They come down this little descent. It's actually quite a difficult one to maintain position in this final, Katie, because you have varying terrain and you also don't want to get to the front too early.
Well, normally we would look at a downhill and think this is a great chance for them to recover. But if we look at their power numbers, there's very few that are dipping below that 4 watts per kilo. They're still sitting largely between 4 and 5. And every time we get a little glimpse, it was Justine Barrow before. Now we've got Carly on screen again. She is out of her seat and working hard. So it is far from getting the recovery on that downhill. But this is an 8.9 kilometre race. We've got 2.2 kilometres left to go. It is largely flat on the run into the finish. And this is where they will start positioning as they head into that finish. Because, Pat, if any of the other races are to go by, we're up for a bunch sprint. They're starting to recognise who jumps where, and they might have to be a little bit less predictable to get a bit of a jump on their fellow bunch mates here.
Yeah, well, on the two-tier ascent here, it's really tough, and sometimes you can go too early. But often, as we see in professional cycling, sometimes that move that looks so stupid always wins because everyone expects it not to. So at the moment, it still is Bramboos. She's right at the front. McGregor behind her. Karami, the Japanese rider, close by. Carly Taylor in there as well. Justine Barrow right up there in the series. She's in the top 5. They're getting ready. You can see the finish line now. It's in their sights. We start to see some orange numbers. Bamboos nearly into 10 watts per kilo. Karami following her. McGregor right up there as well. Penton behind her. Bree Wilson there also. This is going to be a strong sprint to the line.
Well, Bamboos was hitting nearly 12 watts per kilo, accelerating, and not in the absolute final glitzes of the moment. Look at them, they crossed the line there. That was a hard-fought sprint. We saw a lot of the athletes sneak over that 10 watts per kilo mark. Pat, that is absolutely moving. And Bree Wilson taking
1-2
the
for
win there.
Roxol Attacker. So that's Bree Wilson takes out the stage. Well, the race won tonight, should I say. Right behind her, right up there in the series in our live cam, it was Justine Barrow. Jenny Penton looked like she slipped in there for third. It will need to get official results. And Neve Bradley seemed to round out that top 4 from my vision. It's a good race there, Katie, and as you said, it was power on from the get-go. But even that sprint, I must admit, when I was racing more prominently on Zwift, this was always the start, the course that I disliked the most because you just had to go so deep all the way to the line. I really feel for them having to back up in just about 10 minutes' time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sneaky one, isn't it? Sometimes you think that it's all going along quite smoothly, but those little pinches, they take a lot more out of the legs than you realise. And when it's time to open up for the sprint, it certainly bites. But Bree Wilson, we know that she's on form. We've seen her time and time again perform really well in the Zwift world as well as in the normal world. And it's probably not a surprise, but it will be interesting to see that full top 10 and where that plays out overall. Again, that leads to the strategy of trying to win stages versus going for that GC. So it is an Omnium format, 20 points for the winner and down to 1 point for 20th spot.
More surprisingly, for that was she used the draft power-up and took the victory. I must admit I expected the Aero Para. We'll have a little look at the men's race. Obviously tonight we're following the women's in totality, but we'll also have highlights of the men. So we catch the men here and they're about to go into the two-tiered not too long away. So it's the final kilometre here. Graham Frisley, he reigned supreme last week, Katie, and he was phenomenal. Again up there, his teammate Dylan Lindsay right up there. Menezes as well. It looks like there's some pretty strong riders. Trekkie in there again tonight. Callum Pearce from Oliver's Real Foods Racing in there. Also Compson in there tonight and Zawadzki. Zawadzki has a fast finish and does like this finish. Graham Frisley, though, he will be the big favourite going to the line. And we've also got Kieran Lewis. Kieran Lewis is right up there as well from Zwift HQ. So he's carrying the weight of the Zwift HQ tonight, along with Carly Taylor in the women's race. Having a look at who else is in there. Steve Robb, Jeremy Cameron in there as well. Blatzovic from Saddlers Giant Racing as well. Wes Sulzberger right up there too. So maybe Wes can turn the clock back tonight. We're just about to take that corner. We caught the women just moments ago at this particular point. And it'll be interesting to see. Going long, Nathan Elliott already into the orange numbers. So too Zawadzki. He follows quick. Thomason, who was strong last week in second, he follows Zawadzki. Right there, though, Graham Frisley holding on tight. Looks like he's going to be in for a good sprint tonight. It's Thomason. He was impressive last week. He's gone for one surge. Does he have a second effort here? And now they start to launch those power-ups. Dylan Lindsay getting into position to help out his teammate Graham Frisley, and it looks like they've got this perfect tonight. Saddlers Giant, they lead out Subaru Giant, they lead out the man Frisley, the Grizzly. Can he do it? 3 races in a row. He hits the front. It's going to be close on the line. Look at the Storming Thomason. He was fantastic last week. He's going to get him this week. He's going to get him on the line. Thomason, Van Dam Racing. What a sprint. Daz Carter in third. And also C-Clamp in fourth. Well, we spoke about Thomason last week, Katie, and he got the job done in race 1. I tell you what, Graham's a really nice guy, but I don't think he'll really like that. He'll be coming out stronger in race 2 for sure.
Well, now that you've given him the moniker Grizzly Frizzly, I think he's probably motivated to go. Jason Thomason, he's been in incredible form the last couple of weeks. He does lead the GC overall. But Frizzly, he was in fifth at the beginning of the evening. And I think we might be getting a pretty good horse race coming into these final three races. But certainly they are tight at that sprint finish, aren't they? I feel like week after week, Pat, they're starting to get to know each other's online sprinting style, because it is a bit different to on the road, and they're kind of starting to pick up the cues of who goes when and who performs from when.
The timing was perfect from Thomason tonight, and he got it a little bit off last week, but he made up for it tonight. He'll be on a high for race two, so a great effort. And hats off to Subaru Giant, because Dylan Lindsay got to the front and gave Graham every opportunity, but Thomason, well, he gets the tick, and as you said, he leads the series overall, but Frizzly Grizzly, he's getting right up there as well with some major points again. Picked up 40 in 2 races last week, picked up another 19 tonight.
Well, this is fun to give them some fun nicknames, isn't it? We can go through the whole field like this. If anybody wants to send us in their preferred nickname, well, we can see how that goes as well. We'll take a look at the GC, at the overall results, from stage one for the women when we can. And Pat, they only have 10 minutes in between. It's not a lot of time to recover.
No, it certainly is not. And it's actually probably the perfect amount of time for the lactic acid to really explode in the body, just to make your legs feel like jelly. And particularly these shorter intervals, 7 to 10 kilometres, really hurt. It's like doing a prologue time trial, having a 10-minute rest, and let's do it all again. So it's a really, really demanding type of racing.
Sure is. Now let's take a look at the results for the women's and then for the men as well for this first race. So Pat, the men's.
Looks like we had the men up there, and there was. Now we've got the women.
Get around to the women.
Cody.
All right, we've got Brie Wilson took that ahead of Fran Bamboost in second, Justine Barrow in third, Bronwyn McGregor in fourth, Neve Bradbury in fifth, Corinne Hall in sixth, Sophie Sutton came seventh, Jenny Petnan in eighth, Courtney Sherwell in ninth, and Marie-Louise Fitzgerald in 10th.
Strong that was A grade. There.
It's a tight race at the top. I think Bamboost has been the most consistent over the weeks. Now over to B grade, we've got Nicole Smith leading the way ahead of Tanya Cross. V. O'Connell was in third, Erin Bertram in fourth, Grace Fang took fifth, Hannah Vine number 6. 7th place was Talita Botha. 8th place, Sharon Blegg. Melinda was 9th, and Natasha Williams was in 10th. All very tight races. Again, in the C grade, Mazza Lovegrove edged out Mackenzie Scott for second. Kat C in third. Lam Kong in fourth. Tam Kite in fifth. She's been very consistent over the weeks. Simone M in sixth. Priscilla Brown in 7, Shiori Bamba in 8th, Hayley Jack in 9th, and Susie Beretta in 10th. And for the D grade women, and gee, they were all clipping along too, weren't they? Vanessa Reyes Triana in first, Rock Jedi in second, Virginia Riches in third, Camilla Sanchez in fourth, Rowdy Rocket, great name, in fifth. She's given herself a nickname, Pat. 6th was Steffi Now, 7th, Joe Lees, 8th, Tracy Johnson, 9th, Jacinta Preston, and in 10th, Beck Sobey. So some tight leaderboards across the board there, Pat, and the men's results.
Yeah, B grade, it was Nick Blundell who took it well back to A grade. Jason Thomason, we saw that fast finish, but how's that? 11 minutes nearly on the cracker. Graham Frizzly just short for third victory in a row. Daryl Carter rounding out the top 3. Lynn Zawadski, who we spoke about coming into the finish, loves that course. He was 4th. Cam Clamp in 5th. Lucas Carstensen in 6th. Christo Ball, who was strong last week, back in 7th, so he's doing well again. Psychopath up there with Zach Herod, and then Callum Pearce from Oliver's Real Foods Racing rounding out the top 10. Nick Blundell, as we said, he won B grade in front of Ian Meenick, and Meenick's been very strong over the previous weeks as well, along with Paddy Quiggin, and they've been ultra consistent, those 3. Brendan Rosenvar was there in 4th with Tom Gallagher rounding out the top 5. Michael Templeton in 6th. Sebastian Retzlaff in 7th. Nick Owen right up there, and Damien Hassan just pipping hashtag Hollywood, who's been a factor of the series so far. Ben Gove won C grade. Big shout out to Ben. Jimmy Leach in 2nd. Chris Bremner in 3rd. Andrew Bain in 4th. Dale Lingwood rounded out the top 5 with Max Newsman in the under 13s. Great effort for him in 6th. Jason Dennis in 7th. Bone Shaker in 8th. Jeffrey Schultz in 9th, and Jason Pushy rounding out the top 10 in C grade for the men. In D grade, MFS it was in 1st with Rich Smith in 2nd. Ryan Looker rounding out the top 3. Pietra Malitzuski, I'll give it a shot. Ryan McKenzie in 5th. Katsu Yam 6th, Mark Saunders in 7th, Shane Price 8th, Jay Tulloch in 9th, and Curtis Gomez. He rounds out the top 10, and that's for the Giant Crit Crushers. Race 1, A, B, C, and D grade in the men's, Katie, and some fantastic efforts by all of the riders so far.
Well, Pat, I think racing in a Zwift world is teaching a lot of people a lot of new things. Let's hear from some of the women about their experience so far and a few words of encouragement for anyone sitting at home who may be thinking about giving it a go.
Hey guys, Courtney from Bendigo. I will be gearing up to race the Live Giant Crit Crush series on Zwift. We are halfway through the series now, so we still have 2 weeks left of racing, and that's 4 races in total. I have just jumped onto my Zwift companion app to make sure I have registered for the events because I absolutely don't want to miss out. If you are thinking about it and haven't decided whether you're going to do it yet, I would say just do it. It's a lot of fun, and you'll be surprised by how contagious it is.
Oh my God, I love this competition. I love this Live Grit Crushing series. It's just amazing. It's my distance exactly, not too long, not too short either, and the perfect competition, all the best competition you could want. And it's my very first time that I won a broadcasted race. Actually, I'm number 1 in this series. Oh my God, I really have to do this one again this week and go for that sprint.
I've been doing the Live Crit Crushers for the last 2 weeks. Still learning, don't really know what I'm doing. First week, I'm just like on the pedals, just pedaling furiously, no idea what's going on. Second week, I'm like, yeah, I feel confident I'm going to move myself up a grade. I don't know why I was so confident. This week, I think I might try, employ some tactics. I don't really know what that means, but, we'll just see what my brain cooks up. And what my body can do. So it's a great way of testing yourself, really good, interval training. It's good for you, get involved, you feel a part of it, a lot of people there, great thing to do in lockdown. Just be a part of something. So, we can beat this lockdown thing. Why don't you join us?
Hey guys, it's Carly Taylor here. Just warming up ahead of the Giant Crit Crushers happening later on tonight. Definitely looking forward to some back-to-back racing with my Rock Salt Attacker teammates. But my giant goal for the series is to just beat one person in a bunch sprint. I know it's never really happened in my career, so I'm definitely shooting for the stars here, but also hoping for one of those aero power-ups. Just in case though, don't in the aero speed suit. So wish me luck. Peter Mullins, watch out.
Oh my gosh, what a bunch
them.
of personalities they are. And how about Fran Bambus? I mean, she looks like she's got a whole lot of personality packed in there, and she's certainly been the absolute pocket rocket of a sprinter we've seen so far. The ladies are out on course for race number 2 for this evening, race number 6 for the series so far. Pat, let's go down and take a look. They're heading around LaGuardia Loop. They've got 3 laps around there in New York, 9.9 kilometres. And 132 metres of vertical gain. So let's not say that it's lumpy. It has a few moments of up that they will certainly have to pay attention to. But I think we can expect another bunch sprint. Sorry, Carly.
Well, yes, we've seen some mixed results on this course, that's for sure. Seen some really aggressive racing, and one of the riders that really likes it aggressive, particularly on this course, would be Justine Barrow. She picked up some really good points in race 1, but so did Fran Bamboost, and you're so right. She's popping with energy. She loves it. And how exciting those inside those riders' videos. I love them each week. The men's last week were great, but those women today, I think they just go to the top of the leaderboard. So we'll get another run of those next week with the men again. As I said, we've got Lizzie Stannard in there tonight, Jenny Pettenham. It's good to see McKay back in there as well. Of course, Fran Bambus. She's looking to get a victory. She's been so consistent, hasn't she? First in race 1 last week, second in race 2, and then taking out second in race 1 this week. Justine Barrow already on the move. 400 watts almost, Katie.
Well, she has taken the opportunity to make a break on the field. They will have to chase her if they want to bridge this back. They won't just end up drifting back to her, not when the speeds are as high as they are, over 50 kilometres an hour, a slight downhill as they go through that sprint arch. And Justine Barrow, we have seen her with some incredible performances, Pat, but we do know her slightly more as a climber. She has the slightly auspicious title of being the eldest Australian woman to ever stand on the podium at the National Road Championships, which I think is super impressive to anybody who's just picking up cycling for the first time. You can certainly do it. It's not too late. And Justine, she's working hard. She got a good break, but she's certainly not one to let go. And I think, the old rule, Pat, is you never let anybody off the island that is out of the bunch if you think that they could stay away. Justine Barrow certainly held that danger, and they have pulled her back.
Well, what they'll find tough on this course is the repetitiveness of those surges, particularly from Justine Barrow. I think she's made her tactic pretty clear as we go inside with Carly Taylor, and you can tell the pressure's on early. It's fantastic to see Carly getting back into some really good form too, and a new drive, a new motivation with coming back to the racing scene in 2021, as we said earlier, with Rock Salt Attacker. So fantastic to see that news announced recently. A bit of a surge off the front maybe, but it's Justine Barrow. She's going to look to use up these tough parts of the course to consistently attack. Peter Mullins is on the move now, so this is an interesting move. Rock Salt Attacker obviously making a real move for it, probably trying to wilter down the strength of Fran Bamboost for the sprint, and we saw Brie Wilson took out the first race tonight. Maybe she'd go back-to-back today, but Peter Mullins, she's out to 4 seconds already.
Well, teamwork and how it works in Zwift is exactly the same as how it works out on the road, Pat. When you have a team that has a whole heap of riders in there, their absolute best chance is to, one by one, keep sending riders up the road. That means that Bamboost, as an example, a rider who is out there with a smaller team, well, she either has to sit back and watch around and let other people chase, or she has to put her head in the wind, spend a lot of energy to chase that back herself. Rock Salt Attacker certainly know that this is the tactic they're taking on tonight. Peter Mullins, 4 seconds. That is a whole distance. It doesn't look too big, that gap. You might think that's easy to pull back at the end, but I actually think it will continue to open up and start chasing. And that might mean getting organised. It will certainly mean in Zwift that a whole heap of riders will have to decide around the same time to put the effort in and to start chasing that, because Peter Mullins, she has a heck of a palmarès under her. She has been Australian champion across a number of different disciplines, represented Australia at many World Championships and Commonwealth Games. She's certainly not the rider to underestimate.
Oh, certainly not. And one of my most enjoyable riders to watch in the women's cycling over the last decade. She just animates all the time, and she's doing the same tonight. She's got a little Rock Salt Attacker teammates back in the bunch too, so they don't need to be doing anything either. Expect to see another counter-attack come as soon as Peter Mullins is absorbed here, and probably most likely to come from Justine Barrow. And this is great to see. I've got to say, the live bikes in-game look phenomenal, and the paint scheme differentials that you can do are fantastic as well. Brie Wilson now attacking, I think. We saw her in the orange numbers. Justine Barrow right there, and it's Sherwell, who we saw in one of the videos earlier. That's one of the Rock Salt Attacker riders as well. So she's really made a surge. Look at that gap open up so quickly. Brie Wilson, her teammate, 2 seconds back. Justine Barrow behind her. Then Annabelle Luxford right up there as well. So great to see her back racing. And Karami, who's been so strong, the Japanese rider, she's right in there too. But this is an incredible attack here. And Sherwell, she's holding 330 watts, which is equivalent to nearly 6 watts per kilo. This is an exceptional ride with her teammate stuck in no land at all in the middle there, Bree Wilson. At 4 seconds, Sophie Sutton trying to surge across.
Well, this is a really impressive move by Sherwell, and we can see from the numbers that she's not backing off at all. But if you look down the list, the other riders and certainly the peloton appear to have taken the foot off the accelerator just for the moment. 5 seconds can easily turn into 10 or 15 if there's a moment's hesitation. Rock Salt Attacker, absolute kudos to them, Pat, for this very strategic ride. So far in this series, we've been talking about how teamwork can play a role, but we haven't necessarily had the opportunity to see it play out. This is a bit of a masterclass, even regardless of what happens at the finish. This is certainly Rock Salt Attacker putting some runs on the board and showing, putting the rest of the race and the field on notice, really, showing that they are the strongest team out there. Still a 4-second gap for Sherwell. She is known as a mountain bike rider, a very strong one at that. Very dynamic mountain bike riders, Pat. You know, they have the ability to go in and out of very high power zones, very powerful. And this gap needs to come back pretty quickly. It is 9.9 kilometres in total around this course, and certainly not a time to become complacent.
No, certainly, and particularly as you said, this is ideal conditions for a mountain biker, anaerobic effort all the way, and just sitting right on that threshold. Sherwell, she still finds herself off the front. Lizzie Stannard moving into second place. Abel, our Japanese guest, is there as well. Annabelle Luxford right up there. Katie McKay right up there as well. Bramboost has not had to do anything though, so at the moment this really hasn't worked so far. This plan, wait to see the next attack. This has been, well, actually maybe it's not going to be required. Sherwell, she continues to push almost 300 watts out of her pedals at the moment, and she is actually increasing that gap because that goes out to 6 seconds now, and looks like this group is feeling a little bit of fatigue from the earlier race this evening.
Well, Bamboost to keep that overall lead in the GC. Remember, it is points again. Overall on the GC, it is not time. So if she was to finish with a lot of points, she would still maintain that lead overall. Tactically for her, depending on how she can handle it, but strategically, she might be best placed to sit back and watch if everybody else does take those points. So we had Bree Wilson there, and she looks like she's working hard, but Pat, she's not out of the seat and sprinting away like we've seen a little bit earlier on. She looks really comfortable. She certainly doesn't surprise me. We know how capable she is, but certainly if body language tells us anything, it's that she's in very good form and she's just biding her time.
Well, she's been a very strong improver over the previous few seasons, and it's great to see. And she's been a great add to the Rock Salt team. Touched on that earlier, that riders like Neve and Bradbury are very lucky to be involved in a team that has such experience. But also, Carly Taylor touched on it. The camaraderie and the enjoyment in the team is fantastic as well, and you see it. They perform on the biggest stage in the Women's Herald Sun Tour. They were phenomenal. They've done well across the board in all the races, including even at the Great Ocean Road race for the women's at Cadell. So fantastic team, and much like Peter Mullins, their leader in the team, or captain, should I say, they are an incredibly enjoyable team to watch. They animate all the racing. So still out in front, it is with about a 4-second lead is Sherwell, and Pettinen's on the front trying to narrow that gap.
Well, Sherwell certainly looks strong and consistent. Justine Barrow will not be chasing her so much. They are teammates, and sometimes it's a bit of a tactic, Pat, for a teammate to jump onto the front of the bunch and hold that pace and make sure nobody pushes it too much. The gap went out to 7 seconds at its largest, so Sherwell certainly powered away, but the bunch is starting to pay some attention now. We're certainly in the business end of the race, and that bunch, they are really accelerating behind. We can see them coming into shot. This is where Sherwell needs to double down and make it count. She's already put a lot of energy out there, Pat. There's absolutely no reason for her to even virtually start looking around and seeing where the bunch are. She just has to commit and see what happens. The Rock Salt Attacker team are in very good standing behind her.
Yes, well, the peloton is starting to surge in pace, but the gap still remains. And Cheryl, it's been a strong performance. She's got nothing to be ashamed of tonight. She's done a really good team effort. She pops her aero power up now. She boosts herself up towards that 300 watts again, and she's really got that cadence down lower. Heart rate's pretty manageable, and at 1,500 meters to go, she isn't done yet. It's McGregor who's surged from the Vixens team. She's surging off the lead, and she looks like she's going to reel in Sherwell right very quickly. Brie Wilson right on her wheel, and a Luxford right there as well. Brambus, she's never too far behind. Jenny Pettinen right in the mix with also Justine Barrow. Inside the camera, we go with Brie Wilson, 1,400 metres to go.
Brie Wilson, definitely the rider to watch. We've seen she's on form tonight. A cracking effort from Sherwell, but she has been reeled back in by the efforts of the bunch. The chase quite coordinated in the end. Carly Taylor, look at that. She's up the front. Carly, you've only got to beat one person across the line to not be last in a bunch sprint. I think that was her aim for this evening. But Brie Wilson, she accelerates to the front, off the front, opening a bit of a gap. Pettinen in hot pursuit. Justine Barrow not far behind.
Interesting move here by Wilson, who took out the first race tonight in a bunch sprint. She could have backed herself in, but she's decided to go a bit longer. 430 watts was a little bit of a surge there. She now sits at 350, right on her Luxford. She's got the draft boost. She goes to the front. Pettinen now surging towards the front as well. Carly Taylor, as you mentioned, she's right up there with Fitzgerald as well. Lizzie Stannard, she can do a fast finish, so keep your eyes on her. And not far around the corner here. It's the slightly uphill finish. It's going to be the rider with the most in legs left. And, well, maybe, just maybe, Justine Barrow can get the job done in this finish.
Well, Fitzgerald has been strong. Barrow and the Rock Salt Attacker team have been riding out of their skin. Brie Wilson, she's got good legs, and the sprint is on. Justine Barrow, she is working hard at the front, out of her seat. She's putting everything into it, but the power-ups are coming into play. The draft truck is in use there, and it's Annabelle Luxford that accelerates around the outside, catches them by surprise, and takes the victory. Annabelle Luxford, what a brilliant ride from her. She didn't come out of nowhere, but she certainly had a very sneaky acceleration at the end there. Justine Barrow, Pat, maybe she went a little bit early, but an incredibly strong ride all around from the Rock Salt Attacker team. And I've got to say, gee, they made it exciting. I mean, let's take a look at the replay of that women's sprint. I thought Rock Salt Attacker had it all tied up. Justine Barrow, she moved, she went. But Luxford, she just had the legs, helped by the power-ups.
Yeah, certainly. Look, Justine Barrow did everything she had to do. She had to go long. She had no other option. She doesn't have that speedy kick. In Luxford, she just surged at the right time. Punched that wattage up above 500 too, so that was a really big sprint there. Justine Barrow, she was able to hold on to third. I think it was Broome that just pipped her on the line. And then Brie Wilson, her teammate, coming in just behind her. So Brie Wilson picked up some big points tonight. Most notably, Bambust in 7th position, I think, in tonight's race too. So some points gain there after a little bit of points loss in the first race for Justine Barrow to Bamboost. She lost 1 point to her, but then she's gained 4, I think, in race 2. So it's a little bit of tic-tac-toe. Here we go at the moment in that series, and it'll be interesting to see what the GC looks like after these 2 races.
It certainly will. They've been really consistent. But at the same time, you know, we've seen some standouts. Bambus is certainly incredibly consistent over 6 races so far. Brie Wilson, I got to say, she looks the most on form to me. She is getting better week by week. But Annabelle Luxford, what a fabulous sprint. I love the sprints even in the virtual world. It's you can just imagine the shoulders knocking. Pat, let's go down and take a look at what happened in the men's.
Yes, well, the men's race, and they picked them up at about 1 kilometre to go. And altogether, it is with the rider just off the front, but it looks like it's going to be a bunch sprint again. Been strong in this finish has our man Frisley, and he'll be looking to go another strong performance in this stage here. Kieran Lewis up there, he was right up there in the series overall. But he's had some trouble in the final 2 races of the series so far and hasn't picked up a lot of points. So he needs some points here tonight in race 2. Cooper Sayers in there, Blasevic in there, Daz Carter, who was strong in race 1. We also look to see these long surges already. So it's Sherwin, Matt Sherwin, he surges. Bull right behind him. Carstensen there as well. Callum Pearce, who was strong in race 1. He's in position. Drew Ginn, all the way from Tasmania. Shout out to Drew, one of the competitors from the Awesome Foursome. Callum Pearce, look at all the orange numbers flying. There's only 300 metres to go, surging to the front. Usami and Vanden Vaart right there as well. It looks like it's going to be a close one on the finish. Veltke comes to the front for Aero, but over the top, Cooper Sayers, his teammate, looks like he's going to get the job done. Been a while since we've seen Cooper on the start line in the Zwift racing, and just he gets there. He gets there from Anya, that is Ball, who finishes in second. Kieran Lewis, we just put the pressure on him, said he needed to pick up some big points tonight, and he's finished in third, ahead of Daz Carter. So that was a strong finish, and what an effort by the Aero Racing team. Jay Felke went long, Cooper Sayers in the slipstream, come over the top, and took out the victory there, Katie.
Oh, Pat, that was another ripping sprint. I'm just loving the action here. I think as it builds up, I feel like each race, they're all starting to get to know each other a bit better, and the sprints are just getting better and better. But interestingly, Grizzly Frizzly was nowhere to be seen in that final sprint. Last week, we saw him absolutely dominate a couple of the races, and so it is interesting how it plays out, isn't it? And Kieran Lewis, I'd be interested. I think he must be quite high on the GC now. He's totally Zwift represent. He's doing really well.
Yeah, well, Thomason took a lot of points out of him in race 1 tonight, but he's got some really crucial points finishing third tonight, and probably a stage that doesn't really suit him either. But certainly a really strong performance there by Cooper Sayers, and we haven't seen a lot of him recently, but he had a really strong start to the winter season on Zwift, and he's been incredibly strong in the real-life racing in the National Road Series, which should make a return in a couple of months' time, so we look forward to seeing how that goes. Let's check out some of the results from race 2. Katie, and I think we'll see the women up first.
So the women have been having a very tight mix at the top of the table. And our winner in race 2 this evening, race 6 overall, Annabelle Luxford. What a sprint from her. Bree Wilson, she's the up-and-coming most consistent rider. I would give her that award in second. Justine Barrow in third. Bronwyn McGregor in fourth. Our pocket rocket Fran Bamboost was in fifth. Jenny Pettinan in sixth. Carly Taylor, look at that, in seventh. She sure did do well in that bunch sprint. She's ticked off that goal. In eighth, Marie-Louise Fitzgerald. In ninth, Justine Clark. And in 10th was Lizzie Stannard. For the women in B grade, we have Margot Jaquette leading and Erin Bertram in second. Tanya Cross taking out third. V. O'Connell in fourth. Natasha Williams in fifth. Grace Fang in sixth. Hyun Jin Sooty in seventh. Selena Shake in eighth. Talitha Botha in ninth. And Melinda in 10th. And then we'll move on. I don't think the C grade may not have finished yet, Pat. It is some pretty tight racing out there. They finished staggered, so let's head over to the men's results.
Yeah, and it was Cooper Sayers. He was too strong on the line. Looked like he was slowing down to get caught on the line, but Christo Ball, strong finish, second place. Kieran Lewis, who needed those points, he's in third. Lucas Carstensen, he's in fourth from Germany. Jay Felke, beautiful lead out for his teammate Cooper Sayers there. He rounds out top five with Daryl Carter in sixth. Klaas van den Naad in seventh. Hayaki Usami in eighth. Jason Thomason, winner of the race one. He's in ninth, and Zach Herod rounds out the top 10 in the A grade race 2. In B grade, it was Damien Hassan who was the winner tonight, and well done and a shout out to him. Ian Manick, who's been ultra consistent, along with Paddy Quiggin. They're always in the top 3, those two. Good riding by them again tonight. Cole Burmester in 4th, Tom Gallagher in 5th. Nick Blundell, who took out race 1 in 6th. Michael Templeton in 7th. Sebastian Retzlaff, who was strong last week, in 8th. Sue Toshiaki from Japan in 9th, and David Stoyle from Great Britain rounds out the top 10. In C grade, it was a strong performance again tonight in race 3 for Flying Buttress. He was in 13 minutes 30. It's a strong finish. A good sprint there too. Jason Dennis in second. Mike Brooks, shout out to Mike Brooks, who gives us a great hand at all of the live events in Australia. Andrew Bain in 4th, Jimmy Leach in 5th. Peter Noble, 6th place. Chris Bremner rounding out that top 7 with Jeffrey Schultz, Dale Lingwood, and then Marty Klukas from Giant Australia in 10th. Big shout out to Marty. In the D grade, Yuichi Ikeda from Japan was too strong for the rest of the riders tonight. Josh Beaumont in 2nd, Rob Rinaldi in 3rd, Shane Price in 4th, Raul Maria in 5th. 6th place to Ethan Catlin, Murray Tichner in 7th, Katsu Yam in 8th, Scott Hose in 9th, and Curtis Gomez rounding out the top 10 for this race 2 on the week 3 of the Giant Crit Crusher series.
So let's go over to the women's C grade, and Mazza Lovegrove, that's a name we keep seeing. She's performing excellently, took the win ahead of Erin Ferg, ripping right in 2nd there, Tam Kite in 3rd. These 3 have been consistent all along. In 4th, Lam Kong. In 5th, Susie Beretta, another name we keep seeing. Hayley Jack in 6th, Kat C in 7th, Shioro Bamba in 8th, Mackenzie Scott in 9th, and Anna Johnson rounded out that top 10. And we'll head over to the D. They might not be finished yet, but interestingly, 14:30 was the finish time for B grade, 14:52 the finish grade time for C grade. So there's not as big a differential there, I think, as some of the women feel. Pat, I feel like sometimes their numbers might throw them into a grade. Some of them might be a bit apprehensive about how they've been graded and where they belong. But I am absolutely pumped. I don't know about you, but it has been so good to see so many entries across the grades, both for the women and men. It's just hugely supported this Giant Crit Crusher series. Pat, let's head down and have a chat to Carly and see how she went, because she hit a pretty big goal tonight to not finish last in a bunch sprint. I think she probably underestimated herself. Carly, not only did you not finish last, you beat quite a lot of people, actually. That was an excellent finish, especially in race 2.
Yeah, I think the thing that works in my favour is I'm a little bit of a Swiftaholic. So I knew the course and I moved up in the time that I could. Definitely nothing to do with, I think, my sprinting abilities, but I'll claim it and I'll let Peter know that I better in a sprint too. Don't worry.
Yeah, look, we can save you a screenshot if you like, and you can just send her a little text message with a picture if that could help, or print it out for her and send it over. Carly, you mentioned that you're not so much of a sprinter, but you know the course well, and that really helped you. Strategy, knowing the courses and positioning helps so much in the Zwift world, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And just knowing like when you're going to get those power ups, and if you've got one that you don't want, you can like discard it before you cross the line to get another one. But yeah, it was awesome racing with the Rotso Attacker girls. I keep on seeing someone like go up and I'm like, oh no, I probably have to cover. And then I see that it's a teammate and I'm like, yes, don't have to do anything. So they've been racing awesomely as a team, and yeah, really impressed with them so far. And it's been a really fun series with just one race left next week.
Well, can we just for a second touch on that teamwork thing? Teamwork makes the dream work, Carly. And you ladies look like you've got the strategy all sorted. How does this work in the virtual world? Have you got like a virtual team meeting that goes on beforehand, or a crazy WhatsApp group? I mean, how do you get organised?
Yeah, Peter Mullins always makes sure like we know who is racing each week, and we haven't actually used Discord. I know like Discord is used a lot with the normal chats, but I think the girls just know each other's strengths so well that they seem to be in sync. I sometimes think that maybe I'm just missing out on the WhatsApp group or the Discord and everyone's talking and I'm just the one that's left, because it's been pretty coordinated, and I wish I could say that it was all pre-organised, but I think they just know each other's riding styles really well.
Well, there's certainly a lot that can be said for the coordination within the team. And honestly, you guys put on a fabulous show tonight. So absolute kudos to you all. And a little victory for you with that bunch sprint. We're going to go over and talk to Justine for a second and see how she went. But good luck again next week, Carly. Justine, my goodness, you animated the heck out of that race. How are you feeling?
It is just so much fun to just see so many rock solid attacker jerseys out there, and the Fast and Furious racing, and can't do it in real life at the moment, and so it's just so much fun being with the team.
And how are you finding the world of virtual racing compared to real life? I mean, there's been a lot of lockdown. It's been very different training. How have you handled keeping the fitness up and keeping the form up?
I think virtual racing and virtual training suits me. I love the hurt, so I love the pain cave.
Oh, I absolutely love that. That is so fabulous. And Justine, just one final one. Carly said that you guys aren't even completely organised in your team in terms of a strategy, but that you just know each other so well by now that you're able to coordinate so well in the virtual world. Has that taken some time? Because it was a really impressive team show tonight.
The team, we've got some core team members that have been together for a while, but we've got a lot of new blood as well, including Carly. So each other's strengths, but also we are an aggressive team and like to animate the race as well. So that's what we saw tonight.
Well, absolutely sensational, and thank you so much for entertaining us, and we hope to see you next week for another round of very entertaining racing. Well done, Justine.
See you then.
Oh, Pat, I love it. I just think that their attitudes are so good. They all turn up. They turn up to race hard. It has been an incredibly tough few months for a lot of people. Of course, you're in Victoria, so you know all about how difficult the lockdown has been. The ability to train has just been so changed. And I really think that all of our athletes, the men and the women, deserve a very big high five, maybe a high 10 for how resilient they've been and managed to make it through such difficult times with such good form.
Yeah, and equally something like the Zwift platform, Katie, and I know we're on it and we broadcast as part of it, but it's really impressive what Zwift's been able to offer these athletes. And I speak mainly about the younger athletes that are still developing, because this 12 months could have destroyed their chances at elite racing potentially 2 or 3 years' time down the track. And it's actually allowed them to continue to strive for something, aim for something, and also build camaraderie within a group of riders. And probably when I finished racing, that's what lacked so much in the national scene. Was it was very much individuality within the teams. You have 2 or 3 strong riders and the rest are along for the ride. But now with such inclusivity within the team, everyone gets their opportunities, but they also grow so well together. And then when they're in the bigger races, as you know, once you're in the bigger races, it's not just about talent. You've got to work as a team, or otherwise a goal cannot be achieved, particularly when you're up against the stronger and more experienced riders. So these are the things that have really highlighted for me during the winter period in Australia, and particularly the pandemic era, as we'll call it. It's really given these athletes a real chance to develop, but also stay involved with their teammates. So when they do go back outside and race in real life, although it's been different for a period of time, it all still remains the same.
Well, spot on, Pat, and what an incredible platform and what a great racing series. So we've just watched race 5 and 6 in the Giant Crit Crusher series, week 3. We'll be back same time next week for the final 2 races, 7 and 8, and week 4. So please bring your friends, bring your family, sit down, let's make an evening of it. Everybody, thank you for joining Pat and I, and we'll see you same time next week.